Hello and welcome back to the Committee on NATO Expansion in Eastern Europe. I'm your host, Bruce Jackson. This week I want to talk to you guys about steroid use from a perspective you may not have considered before. Before I do that, I just want to say that the video is not meant to shame anybody or make anybody feel bad. I know people personally who take steroids. They're very nice people, lovely people. I sound like Trump. The steroid users, they're very nice people, wonderful people, the steroid users, they're very strong. But a lot of the people I follow online, the coaches and athletes that I follow and take seriously, they take steroids. So this is not meant to be a moral judgment on any one particular person. I more so want to explore the question for myself and maybe for somebody who's considering taking steroids. Is there a good moral and philosophical reason for me not to do this? Because in previous years, when steroids were a lot more taboo, the main reason that you would not take them or were told not to take them was because of some negative health side effect. They're bad on your cardiovascular system, they hurt your reproductive abilities, they take years off your life, something like that. So while I think most athletes, natural and enhanced, agree that steroids have some type of long-term health side effects, steroids have become so normalized on social media that guys not only take them, but they openly talk about it. They kind of give out recommendations for how much you should take and when you should start. Steroids have kind of become a meme, and it's so prevalent in the zeitgeist of fitness that I think a lot of the up-and-coming kids who are now 15, 16, 17 and are just starting to take lifting really seriously, they're looking at all that and they're saying, you tell me I can take steroids, be huge and jacked and strong, make a bunch of money, have everybody like me and want to be around me, but it's going to take 5 years off my life down the road. Who cares? I'll take that. We've all been 16. You're not thinking about the negative health side effects that your behavior is going to have when you're in your 60s. And so I want to consider the question of, is there a good reason not to take steroids morally or philosophically beyond just the negative health side effects and the temporal benefits or problems that it brings? So the first thing we have to think about is, what are steroids doing to us that could lead to some problems? Steroids are very generally a substance that are going to help us push past our genetic and natural limit, whether we're pursuing some type of performance level or some type of aesthetic look. Steroids allow us to get past the natural limits that our bodies have. And so that begs the question, do our bodies have those natural limits for a reason? What are those reasons? And is there going to be some sort of unintended consequence that we face by artificially pushing past our natural barriers? Now, I'm a Christian. My worldview is generally informed by Christianity, so that's the perspective that I'm speaking from. But even if you don't believe in that sort of thing, you can still consider it from that perspective, and I think it makes an interesting argument. In a lot of Christian theology and other religions and philosophies, there is a line of thinking that is pretty prevalent that goes something like, we want to subject the physical to the mental, or subject the physical to the spiritual, so that we have the mind and the spirit and the intellect ruling over the carnal desires and needs that we all have. And I think generally speaking, people will agree that that's a good idea. We want to be in control of our bodies, not have our bodies be in control of us. And I think a lot of that is driven by the thinking that the carnal and the physical have an end, but the spiritual and the intellectual are transcendent. They continue on after death or something like that. And so we want to prioritize and attach ourselves in our lives to the things that are transcendent more and more, and less attach ourselves and spend our time focusing on that which is physical and that which is carnal, because even though the carnal's not inherently bad, it comes to an end. It's only temporary. And so if we were to abide that line of thinking, just for sake of argument, we could say that steroids is maybe a violation of that idea. I don't think anybody would argue that being physically stronger to some extent is a good thing. It's a natural process that occurs within our body when we're growing from toddler to child to adult. But when you get to a point where you say, I want to be able to have strength or muscle mass that goes beyond my natural limits, maybe that's when you hit a point of diminishing returns as far as focusing on the physical rather than the spiritual or the transcendent. But it's not necessarily the process of becoming stronger or achieving a certain physique that's the problem. The problem would arise from being in a place in your mind where you emphasized and desired that so much that you were willing to take a substance that allowed you to bypass your body's natural limits in order to do so. And interestingly enough, this concern or question came to my mind when I was listening to a lecture online. Yale University put out on their YouTube channel a series of lectures on Plato's Republic. And in the book, the professor reads a section where Socrates is having a dialogue with an older man named Cephalus. And Socrates, is very wise, and he's always questioning and asking things. And so he talks to this older man and says, what's it like to be old? Do you still have the desire for sex? And the old man, at least from what I could tell, expressed with some level of relief that, no, now that I'm old, I don't have the desire for money or power or sex or those things that kind of burdened me when I was a younger man. Now I can just focus on performing my religious duties and traditions, and I don't have to worry about those carnal things of my youth. That I'm just paraphrasing, but I thought that was very interesting because he sounded relieved to be rid of the desires and wants of his youth now that nature had kind of stripped them from him. And so I wonder, is there something there? When we get old, is there a reason beyond just the physical body being temporary and needing to die? Is there a reason that we kind of decay in the later years of our life, and are we supposed to learn something from that? And if we take a substance so that we can, in a way, preserve our youth and continue to pursue some type of physical prowess or a certain level of attractiveness in a time in our life when those things are supposed to be leaving our minds and we're supposed to be being more thoughtful and spending more time with our family because we're less focused on ourselves and our carnal desires and needs, are we missing out on something there? Is there an experience that we're not having that old age is supposed to bring us? Ultimately, I don't have great answers to these questions. These are kind of half-baked thoughts that I have when I think about steroids and steroid use. I do think that these two ideas probably have some legitimacy to them, but ultimately I don't know for sure. I think maybe the answer is different for everybody. There's probably some people out there who can take steroids or TRT or whatever and keep that in its proper place in their life and not miss out on whatever spiritual or mental growth that they're supposed to be going through. And there's probably a lot of people that couldn't handle that, and they're better off not taking it. And so, like I said, this is not meant to be a judgment of anybody. This is not meant to say that, if you go into a doctor's office and your doctor says, hey, you have this health problem, but TRT would help you, I'm not telling you not to take it. I'm just considering these deeper questions. If you're a young man and you're considering taking steroids, think of what I've said, and maybe some of it resonates with you, and you'll come to the conclusion that if I take this, it's going to put me in a place mentally or spiritually where maybe I'm not going to be at my happiest, and maybe I'm not supposed to be. So at the end of the day, I don't know. These are just questions that I think about. Let me know what you think of my Trump impression down in the comments below. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you later.